Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Delighted to be joined by Daniel Kazmarek. You are one of the workers down in Chattanooga at the Volkswagen plant,
Yes,
and
sir.
that plant is now currently organizing to join the United Auto Workers, which comes as a result of a lot of momentum after the historic UAW strike. Let me first ask you, when did you start working at the plant down there? And before the UAW strike, did you and your coworkers there ever discuss possibly unionizing, or how did that first come about?
So I started in August, last August. So been a little over a year and a half now. And as far as how like the big three, it really did make a big difference because I can tell you, I've been supporting trying to unionize for about a year now. And a year ago, when I got into it and started going to meetings and learning and everything like that, and trying to organize, it wouldn't go too well at work. Just mentioning the word union generally ended in, a lot of backlash. But
Mm.
that's the mentality thing with the Southeast. But since all the contract negotiations and everything with the UAW and the big three, and they went through and they got their contract, there's been a massive, massive change in the momentum. It's really like working in a different, I don't even feel like I'm in the same place anymore. Just there's a lot of hope and, a lot of gung ho-ness between everybody. Just even the ones that were dead set against it, 6 months ago, they're starting to see what they really can get, you know. So yeah, it's been a big difference.
And tell me about that mentality, because were you kind of on your own little island before the UAW strike trying to organize, or were there others there who were interested? And now the evolution, I assume there's a lot more people that are interested.
So, Volkswagen tried to do this two other times before. So there's a small group of people that actually have been there. The longest one I know, he's been doing it for about 10 years now. And then there's a few other ones that have been doing it 6, 7 years. And that small group, and even when I started, it was a pretty small group of us that were actually willing to stand out, and try to have a voice. But now it's huge. It's huge. Every meeting I go to, the halls are packed. It's a huge change with that for sure. And the uh, the mentality thing, like, it's hard to explain in the South, man. It's like a different world. I'm
I
not
know.
necessarily
I've
born
been
and
there.
raised. Yeah, it's and it's not necessarily a bad thing. They just, lived a certain way for a long time. There's a lot of ideas and everything that people don't really change a whole lot when it comes to that. Seems like this is the last place where change generally comes when it's like a nationwide thing. And uh, I think it's just they aren't prone to the idea of, accepting something new.
Mhm.
Just the way things are, that's just the way things are. But it doesn't have to be that way, you know.
Right.
So it's definitely seeing what can actually happen. Can it changes the momentum when people's thoughts, and we have a lot of people moving here from other places just to work at Volkswagen. So that in itself is, there's a lot more diversity
Yeah.
within the company, like as far as the employees go now. So that's, and all the diversity from everyone everywhere else is talking to the locals, and it's changed a lot of minds. It's changed a lot of minds. They're starting to see what they can actually, what they can get, and what to their fair share, as I
Yeah.
put it.
And tell me, because we covered the UAW strike on the ground there, and from company to company, a lot of the same horror stories. Uh, that assembly line not getting shut down. I don't care if somebody passes out, has a heart attack, just push them aside. Workers talking about, sometimes working often working 7 days in a week, 11, 12 hours. I assume whether it's union or non-union, you guys are going through similar things down there.
Yes, sir. The line, the line must stay moving, no matter what goes on. And that's rough. Sometimes it's rough. We make it happen, but it's rough. Just trying to push through. Like if you're having injuries, anything like that, not necessarily just like repetitive motion type of things, having issues, you can go to medical and everything, but chances are if you're the only one that knows how to do that, or there's not many people, or someone else is there, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have to do that. You might have to go out for a shoulder surgery and come back later, and when you're healed up, you're going to be right back in the same thing that caused it to begin with. It does happen, and it's unfortunate. It really is. And if we could keep people easier, because a lot of people come in and I love my job. I do. I love it. I'm there every day, early an hour, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone can handle that type of life. It's rough on your body. And, me being a 35-year-old man, I can definitely feel the aches and pains just in the last year, and it's rough. Even as far as like keeping the line going, it's such a necessity to keep the line going. Like if you're having an issue with a process you're trying to run, the people that we're supposed to go to, to help us, it's not necessarily more about making sure it's okay. It's pushing the line as fast as we can, and what can we do to fix it while it's rolling to get out.
Right. And I should be clear. I mean, Volkswagen, I think in 2022 made 22 billion euros. It's a European company in profit. That's about 24 billion in dollars.
Yeah.
So it's same story.
Exactly.
They are raking in the dough, but trying to squeeze you dry. Can you kind of talk about some of the messaging, or shall I say union busting tactics that they have taken since you guys have been organizing to join UAW? Because it seems to me they did give that 11% wage increase, what UAW is calling the UAW bump.
Correct.
But that's not all at once. And I don't know, 11% when you have inflation that's gone, close to 20%, it's something, but it's not exactly, taking the huge boulder of economic stress off you and your colleagues' backs.
Well, right before the 11% increase, we also had an increase in our health insurance. So the 11% kind of negated from that. I would say it's closer to like, for me personally, with my insurance rates, it was closer to an 8% raise. Everybody's is different because they all have different health plans, families, no families, that kind of thing. But for me, that's what it ran about at 8%. The union bus and stuff. Yeah, we had a group of people that were trying to hand out leaflets, and they were told by security basically not to. They offered to go to another area, and they just told them it wasn't going to happen. We have break areas and everything where we'll place leaflets, that type of stuff, just information, basic information. And Volkswagen has come in and saying that it's policy, because they all get thrown away. And Volkswagen is saying it's policy to do that on a daily basis. But that hasn't been the case up until we started handing out leaflets every day. It might have been policy, but it didn't ever happen until recently. And it's just like, I get it was policy, but it's very ironic that now they start to follow the policy. Right. They introduced some talking points to us, and it's mandated. It must be read by the supervisor word for word, straight from management, that kind of thing. And it's just it's Volkswagen's way of getting their side of the story out. And if they have any questions or concerns, to reach out to HR.
And what is their side of the story, if I dare ask?
They haven't really given too much of their side of the story. They just want to know that that we must respect the company and that kind of thing. And I know that they're coming out and saying that, like, the stuff that we're handing out on our leaflets are not necessarily true. It could be misinformation, that kinds of thing. But most of the employees, they aren't really listening as well as they were before. They're realizing that not everything management says is 100% on point true every time. They're like, hold on, why are they saying that now all of a sudden?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why is this all of a sudden a problem? Or why is it necessary for you guys to even be saying this all of a sudden when I've been here for a year and never heard that one time? That kind of stuff.
And do you feel some of that among your colleagues, that they're now kind of maybe maybe they're understanding their rights better? Do you think some of that? Do you think some of that comes as a result of the UAW strike, because they were able to watch, President Fain doing, weekly live streams, talking about, your rights as a union member, talking about what you deserve? Do you think that kind of inspired or maybe made some of the workers that weren't as aware of their rights, more knowledgeable?
Absolutely. There's a large majority of our new staff are younger, I would say 25 and younger, and most of them just kind of go by off of what they've heard, and then they see all this stuff going on up at the big three, and they're like, hold on, we can do that? That's really allowed to do that kind of stuff? And it's because I had way more than one conversation about the same thing when the big three stuff was going on. It was a big deal. It was a conversation piece at work many, many nights.
Right. And obviously Tennessee is a right to work state, which,
yes,
let's be clear, is meant to stop unionization. And I think, in the South, there is, tends to be more conservative, which tends to be, critical of unions. But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I don't really think they would have been giving you an 11% increase out of generosity. They did it directly after the UAW strike. Does that kind of indicate to you and your colleagues that they have more money? They've just been choosing to spend it in stock buybacks and dividends for their shareholders and their CEOs?
Well, I can tell you that a lot of the people, even ones that weren't really pro-union or anti-union, they were just at work every day. They did find it a little ironic that we got a pay increase right after the big three went through and all the, talk of possibly unionizing at work and everything started going on. They did find it a little ironic and everything. They all kind of laughed like, how funny.
Yeah.
So it definitely, it turned some heads and made some people think. I can say that.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting because a lot of the unionization efforts in Michigan in particular, I mean, that's ground zero for the auto industry. And a big part of why they were successful is the community support. I mean, America overall, about 70% supported the UAW strike, but particular in Michigan, I mean, you couldn't go to any of these picket lines. Same thing in Ohio, without cars honking, this and that. But you're in Tennessee. Can you kind of talk about how the community has responded? Is there support? Are most of them kind of
there's actually, that actually has been surprising me. We've had a lot of community support. The nonprofit organizations come around, but even just regular civilians in the community. Every time, because I have a union sticker in my back window, and I'll be riding down through town and I'll get people honking and waving, pointing at my thing and giving me thumbs up. And it's kind of shocking. Even the other day when Mr. Fain came here and was talking and everything, all like around the outside of the company, random semis from making deliveries to other places, honking and, giving the thumbs up and everything when they're going by. And it was actually shocking to me. I'm not even going to lie. I expected that to not really be like that, but I know it's definitely changed. The mentality seems to be changing within, the community. So that's a good thing. They're definitely supporting us. A large majority of the community, is behind our backs, and, they want us to get our fair share.
And tell us where things stand. Your location has about almost 4,000 workers, if I'm correct. Obviously, that's a lot of people to organize. Where do things stand? Because I'm sure Volkswagen is not making it easy. They're probably, having conversations with workers. You can't know exactly, but what would you say in terms of percentages is the mood on the ground among workers in terms of support for unionizing with UAW?
So, yeah, you're right. I don't know exact numbers, but I do know that we were over 30% when we started. We got that in less than a week.
30% interest in
30% that had signed an authorization card to bring a vote in for the union.
Wow.
And I know every time that we hand out leaflets, and we normally do it at least once a week minimum, that our numbers start to raise up. It brings out more questions, more people that were afraid to ask questions before start to ask questions. And I can't give an exact figure, but I strongly feel we're working our way well over 50 and working up to 70.
Wow.
Don't know that for sure, but just the momentum going on within the factory, and you don't really hear as much backlash. There are those areas that the people are in, but I know in the area that I work in the paint shop, and 85% of the people around there that I see every day are supportive and have signed their e-cards to get a vote in.
Mm-hmm.
We because I know with the way that they do the numbers and everything, as far as actual support, it's really strong. But as far as like actual numbers, the way they verify them and everything, we haven't gotten a new tally back, because we are getting new people signing cards every single day. I know I personally, I make it a goal to at least find somebody that hasn't said yes or no either way, and talk to them and try and, if they're for it, trying to help them with getting a sign card. And if they're against it, then I understand that's can't change everybody,
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's, we're working hard and our numbers are going up. I know we are extremely confident we're going to pass and get it in this time.
And are you seeing more aggressive tactics from the company? Because obviously UAW President Shawn Fain came down earlier this week. There's been talk that the company has been spying on you guys, trying to unionize, intimidation, threats. What type of things are you seeing besides them taking leaflets?
Since the UAW filed those charges against Volkswagen, it seems like they kind of stepped back for the time being. And we're actually this is our last week for the year, and we're about to go out on a 2.5 week break, something like that. And but I fully expect that, because we're planning to do a rally when we get our official 50% cards signed, and with Mr. Fain being here and everything like that. And I expect it to get a lot stronger coming back from the break at the beginning of the year. I know the people that have been there through the last 2 votes said that it started to get worse as far as, Volkswagen stepping in and doing their side was whenever the votes started coming close.
Mm.
And we're getting closer to that point where we can, push through for a vote, as soon as we get enough cards signed. And like I said, we're really, really close. I know we're getting there. But I expect whenever those numbers start to come out and we are filing paperwork, that's when Volkswagen's going to come down hard, because I did notice that they kind of have backed up a little bit and trying to play the nice guy since these files were charged, or charges were filed. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, we will definitely stay on it, because to me, I mean, obviously the media and everyone's focused on the presidential elections, but as far as I'm concerned, this is where the action is. If you're a worker and you want to see your conditions improve,
Yes.
are you going to rely on politicians or yourself? Because we've had 20, 30 years of empty political BS, in my opinion. And
Yeah, and sometimes that can be an issue in the South. The politicians aren't necessarily for that. So
yeah, absolutely. And you'd be surprised, even in the North. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Daniel. We'll stay in touch and keep updating the audience on Volkswagen's union drive to join UAW.
Thank you
Take
for
care.
having me, man. I appreciate
Absolutely. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Zachary Costello. You are another Volkswagen worker down in Chattanooga, and you are working with your colleagues to organize now and join UAW. Spoke with one of your coworkers earlier, and it's really exciting. I mean, kind of expected UAW to maybe like take a 5-minute break after the strike, but got a lot of momentum now. Tell us, when did you start with Volkswagen, and kind of what made you first interested in possibly organizing for a union there?
Well, I first started with Volkswagen back in 2017 in June. Basically, I had to move up from Florida, and I guess I got lucky getting this job because I was making minimum wage at the time. But so when I first wanted to organize here, honestly, I've wanted to be a part of a unionized facility for a long time, or firm in general. I've always thought that workers get exploited. Well, I thought maybe for a while, at least, that workers get exploited. And yeah, I just thought it was kind of a no-brainer that workers get, they get dictated to all the time, and that they should stand together and at least have more of an equal relationship with who manages them.
Right. And, I heard horror stories on the ground at UAW.
Yeah.
Basically, workers treated like, robots, and people having heart attacks. But,
Yeah.
just move them off the line, keep the line going. I'm sure it's not much different down south, when you clearly don't have those union protections.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that it really depends on like who's your supervisor and leadership at the time. But the fact that stuff like that has happened and could happen, um, even if like some supervisors would actually be more humane, not all of them are gonna be. So like you will have that stuff like that happen. You do see them try to keep the line moving, as quickly as possible, because the number is the most important thing at the end of the day. So.
Right. And what was the kind of evolution? Because, your location has about 4,000 workers. I assume before UAW went on strike, maybe there were some people that were interested in unionizing, but not the masses. What did you see when the strike was going on? Was there more chatter down among your coworkers, more excitement, people starting to think, well, maybe we could do that?
Yeah, definitely a lot more excitement. So if I was here in 2017, you may know that I was here during the 2019 election. So there's a big difference between then and now. People feel a lot more passionate. They have a lot more hope than they used to. They have a lot more like faith in the idea that unionizing and having the UAW help us unionize is the right call compared to the way things used to be. I'm not sure if I properly answered that question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And can you kind of talk about what are some of the grievances among you and your coworkers? Because every company's different. A lot of the same exploitation, but it varies from company to company. How's the work-life balance? Do they care about your work-life balance? How are the conditions? And what kind of hours, days are you working?
Well, as far as caring, because it's the first thing I think about, I will say that there are very likely, and I don't have any proof for this, but there are very likely some people within management that try to solve problems that do actually care, but they definitely aren't enough, and they aren't the big decision maker. They're more of the person, they're probably more the people that get the feedback and then try to find some sort of compromise, but we don't ever get consulted. So let's talk about that work-life balance. Back in 2020, when COVID hit, I was working nearly every other Saturday. They had called a bunch of Saturdays at the beginning of the year. So you're working like all these 6-day work weeks, and you would go to sleep on Sunday and then wake up and you're back at work. And at the time, I really thought that it couldn't get any worse. We were working 9 to 10 hour days every single day, mostly 10 hours. And now I had hoped that would never happen again. And I thought we were kind of on an upward trend of getting away from that. And after, we lost a lot of volume, I suppose, with some changes that were made. And so they've really been wanting to hit record numbers. And I once looked at one of the announcements they sent out about the next few Saturdays that we'd work. And I saw like every single shift had to work 2 Saturdays in a row. And they only rotated like when a shift would have like an actual Saturday off. And I was just floored. Like I used to say that I'm sorry for rambling here, but I used to say that when you work like 2 weeks in a row with no Saturday between, it was like working 1 long work week. So that's like working like just a 3-week, just nonstop. That Sunday is nothing. You go to sleep, you wake up, and there you are again at work.
Try doing that with children and, pets.
And I get stories from people all the time about how they're on third shift. They're getting off at 6:30. And they have to pick up their kids from school. Then they have to like basically take care of their kids until their wife gets back home from their work, if they even have somebody to help them take care of children. And like, I can only I've had it pretty rough out there, but I can only imagine what it's like trying to take care of children.
And of course, a company that's making 22 billion euros a year, $24 billion, they don't have enough money to just hire more people. So you could just work a normal shift, like, 5 days a week. Not repeated weekends. Tell us about the staffing there. It seems that they could be hiring more people.
That is actually something I talk about all the time at work, at least like amongst my colleagues. And I really hate saying this. I don't like talking crap about my job. But I mean, it is what it is, as they say. So you have their staffing, basically, they'll hire in these bursts and they'll hire a little bit extra for attrition. And then they always seem to let things get really bad before they start hiring again. So what that means is you can't see training happening, and you don't see bathroom breaks as frequently. People are working these rotations, schedule rotations, where like you're supposed to do one job and then another. And the more different things you can do, the less miserable your day might be. But you might see a time when, like, for a week, like things are so bad, you're getting moved from line to line, and like you're doing just a one pitch rotation all day. A one job rotation all day, where you're just doing the same thing all day, every single day, because they just let it get thinned down that much, and people start quitting. And like, imagine like hating your life so much at work that you would rather just see what, take a risk and not have a job for a while than continue to work there another day. And so we are very frequently understaffed. And they could have got ahead of it. And we also don't, in my opinion, have enough engineers like on hand too, to basically make sure everybody's job is like ergonomic and not poorly designed. So things start to fall apart, and it's having a massively multiplying effect on morale, a negative impact, obviously. So yeah, I would say the manpower is not in a great situation.
And can you kind of talk about, obviously UAW strike, it's not easy, but they're in Michigan. It's the auto capital of the country. It's a strong union state. I mean, you're in Tennessee, right to work state. Not exactly the easiest to organize. Maybe not as much community support as you would have, in a place like Michigan with cars honking nonstop. But your colleague did tell me you guys have been kind of surprised that the community, by and large, seems to be in favor of what you're doing.
Yeah, honestly, that is always a big deal. I would say that when we saw all of that outpouring and that outreach, it was a very uplifting experience. In the South, yeah, unions don't have the same public view as they do in other places in the United States. But the thing is that I've noticed is people tend to agree a lot on what's wrong. They always agree, like, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken, and I'm miserable, you're miserable, unless they're one of the lucky ones that they got their job that they really wanted and they just kind of sit on it, which I see all the time. Honestly, I'm kind of I feel like one of those people sometimes because I'm more fortunate these days. But everybody out there, they can agree on these things, but they just don't agree on who's responsible for the problem, how to fix the problem, or even that the problem can be fixed to begin with. And it tends to engender this feeling of like, well, it could be worse. Like we could work for some other company. We could be at one of our suppliers' plants where they get paid less than us and treated even worse than us. And that is a kind of logic where they call that the race to the bottom. Yeah, that always sticks with me, that phrase. And that's how it feels. It's like, if we're comparing ourselves to the worst employers in the area, what are we doing? We're circling the drain here. Everything. Well, I don't want to ramble.
And it's kind of being conditioned to have low or no expectations.
Basically, yeah. And I'll tell you, we do occasionally give feedback and have changes. And it's not what we asked for. It's very much okay, we heard you, we made a decision that you didn't have any feedback on after hearing you. And here's the thing. And it is an improvement, like an objective, this is better than it was before, but this is not what we asked for. And it's not enough. And so people will pick that up. Some people will throw it in their faces, and some people will say, see, hey, look how good we have it. You could be working at McDonald's. Why don't you go work there if you don't like it? There's not that many people that say that, but there's a few of them out there.
Yeah. And tell me about your campaign. Got thousands of workers there, so you can't really definitively say how many are interested right now, but I know you have at least 30% of your plant have signed union cards. What do you think in terms of potential for success, and when you might be able to get a union vote and your chances of winning?
Well, I think at the very least it's coming. It's my thought that it's going to come within the first half of next year, but I really don't have much to go on for that. I feel like the energy is much more positive towards unions. People are ready for a change. You have so much energy from so many people. I've seen so many people these days be so interested in what's going on in the big three and what UAW has been doing with their strikes and with the new contracts they've been winning, that they've started actually looking things up. And what I found is when people actually start looking up facts and actually deep diving into everything, they start becoming more and more pro-union. I've seen anti-union people become pro-union time after time after time after time. And it's been an extremely uplifting thing. The only thing that has been bothering me is that there's just quite a few people who also are worried about, what will happen if they find out that I signed a union card. Is that promotion that I was wanting going to come, or are they going to start giving me other jobs to do that is less desirable and possibly injuring, so.
Yeah, that makes sense. And lastly, can you kind of talk about bigger picture? I mean, I don't really have a lot of expectations of politicians. I don't really think any structural change to the better of for workers is coming from Congress, the White House, state reps. I think, in my view, from what I've seen, the only results we're seeing that could actually improve our economic situation, societal, is coming from labor and workers fighting back. Do you feel what UAW was able to achieve, how they're now trying to organize non-union shops like yours, do you think that could have a domino effect into other industries and really see a resurgence of labor in this country?
That has been my hope for a very, very, very long time. That's why I've been pro union, especially like when people were worried back in 2019 that nothing would change. I was just thinking like, this is bigger than all of us. Like we're like behind it. Like if you think of it as a war, like a class war of some kind, like we're behind enemy lines. And like we need to be like, if we have to be the first ones, then we will. Not that we're the first unions in the South. We are not. So like, I'm not getting it twisted here, but every inch of ground we can take can be like 1 inch closer to that tipping point, you know, where the dominoes begin to fall. When people start seeing that, like what happens when we all stand together, that all of this stuff that we've been learning is crap. You know, I hate to say it, like I hate to talk like that, but people might start to look at things differently. And that's my hope. Like I've believed that for a very long time. I think it's incredibly important. And that's one of the reasons why I did not want to stay silent during this campaign or like during this potential vote that we're supposed to have.
Well, we'll definitely stay in touch. I appreciate you taking the time because important. The audience knows that there's a union campaign going on among Volkswagen workers down in Chattanooga. So definitely keep in touch with me.
All right, will do. Thank you very much for your time as well.